Hi, Susan. Here today to do your Celtic Cross reading. You told me you were a Cancer, so I've picked for your significator the Queen of Cups. I have this positioned sort of oddly, and I apologize for the glare on the cards, but I'm going to try to do this so that you can actually see what's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle. And your question was about your going into biochemistry and whether or not that was the right choice for you. Note that I don't ever use reversals or anything like that. It's just not quite my style. And today I'm going to use the Rider-Waite deck for you. Simply for kicks. I like to switch it up every now and then. Makes it a little more interesting. No! Just a little bit more, sorry. I know this part is tedious, but I just like to show you just so that you are convinced of the randomness of this and all that, you know. All about the authenticity. Okay, or so we hope anyway. Alright, well, barring all other parental interruptions aside, go ahead and cut. Okay, so let's see what we have. Covering you is the Empress. I like to lay them all out first and then talk about them if you don't mind. Crossing you is the Nine of Pentacles. Let's see what this looks like from your perspective. The Crown that you have is the Two of Cups. Grounding you is the Fool. Okay. In the past, you have the Tower. And in the future, you have the Hanged Man. Okay. Alright. And underneath everything, because I like to read the bottom card of the deck too, is the Ten of Swords. Okay. So, oh, for goodness sake. I'm not going to answer that right now. So here's what we've got. We have a lot of Venus in your reading, which makes sense to me given the fact that you're a Cancer. You seem to be looking at this from a very emotional standpoint, and you seem a little, well, too wavery. You're sort of, I get the feeling that you're letting your emotions, dictate how successful you feel like you've been so far in this field. And you're right in that it hasn't gone well so far. There have been, there's been something in particular, you said it's been disastrous. And you do have the two disaster cards. So whatever specifically has happened, hasn't been good. Now, the overall situation is represented by the Empress. That's sort of interesting to me because that usually speaks to, well, fertility, first and foremost, but that clearly doesn't really have much to do with this here. It's almost like you're, well, you're trying to develop yourself, I think is what she's saying. And you're trying to be creative with your career. Um, the alternative way of looking at it, again, the preponderance of Venus and being crossed by the Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles is not usually a negative card, obviously. Well, if you, I don't know if you know anything about this. Um, the Nine of Pentacles is not particularly negative, and so I don't usually read it as a problem when it's in that position. So it's more like an objective in a way, sort of what you're targeting, or the another detail of the experience that you're going through right now. And it's in many ways very similar to the Empress being both Venus-like cards. Um, they do share an affinity with each other, so they don't contradict each other at all. Um, and so it seems to me that you are trying to just be as productive as you possibly can, but in a way that also caters to your creativity, um, and perhaps even that. What do I want to say? It could also mean that you're not entirely suited for, well, a job that's so logic oriented, um, because you seem to have such a strong emotional center. A career field that is so numbers oriented doesn't strike me as something that would really suit you. But then again, I don't know you at all. Um, the other reason for saying that is because you have the Fool at the bottom here, representing the source of this situation, the basis of it. And really, it seems to me that you walked sort of carelessly into this, um, at least recklessly. You didn't. It doesn't seem to me like you really thought about this and the ramifications of it. It's almost more like you just. I think you focused on the allure of the money, the financial end of it, realizing that it would be a lucrative career field for you. You sort of just jumped into it. Um, and, really, I think what it's trying to say to you is that at the top here you have the Two of Cups, which of course represents love, but I think at that position it really represents something higher than that, and I think it's really saying that you need to do what you really love, because I don't entirely see you as doing what you love right now, if that makes sense. Um, I think it's saying that it's been disastrous probably because this isn't quite suited for what you um, are intended to do. Um, it is more than possible that biochemistry represents an aspect of what you want to do, or represents just a portion of what it is you're intended to do, but it doesn't necessarily seem to be the be all and end all of your purpose. In the immediate future, I don't see the situation getting much better. You're going to feel very limited by it. You have the Hanged Man, and it's going to feel very slow, like you're not really getting anywhere very quickly, like your actual amount of progress is suspended, and that in some ways, like you've punished yourself. So I don't see the beginning of this situation and the end of this situation in the immediate future as being particularly positive. This seems a little bit like, and it says it right here, frankly, it seems a little bit like it was a reckless decision, um, you know, and I do think that card up top, the Two of Cups, is really just saying to reevaluate what it is that actually attracts you to biochemistry and see if there's something else out there for you that would better suit you. Just better suit your personality. Again, I think it's a personality thing too. You seem to be a um, very compassionate person and very empathetic, very receptive and understanding of people, and you have put yourself in this position of of just you're hurting yourself. You've put yourself in a job that is not going to be necessarily exciting to someone who's a water sign, especially not Cancer. Cancer is so nurturing and so loving and family oriented, and this doesn't seem to be that kind of thing. Now, the other idea of this is that possibly you are doing this because you feel you have no choice. Perhaps it's a financial thing that you need to deal with. But again, I don't really entirely get that sense. And the Hanged Man is in the future. Um, I think it's more, the Fool being the basis of this. I think you just had wanted something new and wanted something different. But the problem is you're paying for it right now, and paying for it quite seriously. The Ten of Swords and the Tower are not things that anyone would want to get, of course. We have to sort of consider them warnings when we get them. So I'm going to continue laying the rest of the cards of your spread out now. How you see yourself is Temperance. So this will sort of either alter or confirm a lot of what I've just laid down. Your environment is the Four of Cups. There it is right there. Bam. The hopes and fears that you have are represented by the Chariot. And the overall outcome is the Two of Wands. Let's see if I turn on this little wire here. Okay. So here is the complete reading. Now, this is sort of exactly very similar to what I was going to say. What I've already said, rather. How you see yourself is as Temperance. Again, I'm really sorry about the glare, but it's better than what I can usually get with this built-in camera. You see yourself as Temperance, which tells me that you feel like you are going on the safe path, that you're doing what is being expected of you, that you basically you feel like you are following some part of your heart's destiny, that you're well, no, that's not really what I wanted to say at all. I think it's more I just think it's so funny, looking at it, that you're in biochemistry and you've got the only guy in the tarot that would look like a chemist, with his two cups there. So I think that's funny that you see yourself as that. Possibly it could, in that case, represent the fact that you feel like you're doing the right thing in the sense that you can help people by doing this job. That this will allow you possibly to do, things like medicine or just research for diseases or something like that. And maybe that's why you really want to do it, and not necessarily the financial end of it, as I had thought. So that's really cool, and that makes more sense given your personality. Wanting to do it to help heal people. The angel on Temperance is almost always associated with an angel of healing, and being associated with Tiferet on the Tree of Life. He is of a certain healing quality. In the environmental factors, you have the Four of Cups here, and that really confirms to me the idea that you're just not all that thrilled with what you're doing. And it seems to me to be partially an environmental thing that is getting you down. it could be that simply readjusting to new surroundings and new people and whatnot is just not quite jiving with you yet. Either you've yet to mesh with that new situation, or you just aren't all that happy with it. It could be both. It can also be that people perceive you as not really being all that interested in in this stuff. And perhaps what it that's what this is saying ultimately is that yes, you love the idea of helping people and healing people and doing something that can have a wide effect, but there are other ways for you to do that that are not necessarily this. And I think it's just saying that you should at least strongly reevaluate it or reconsider things. I'm not going to tell you that you should do one or the other because you are a free human being that can make their own decisions. Um, and I don't think that there's ever a right or wrong answer. But I do think um, that that this could be onto something in saying that it is important for you right now to at least reevaluate. And honestly, I think you're going to go through that sort of thing anyway. Your current track right now, headed towards the Hanged Man, does reference a period of reflection and just contemplation and thinking about one's decisions and choices. So I do see you as sort of waiting it out a little bit more and using this time in the immediate future to reevaluate and reflect on whether or not this is what you really want. And because what you do want, in as far as your hopes and fears, what you want is to overcome the difficulties of this. You do want to at least get over it. You want to get over this hump. Um, and sometimes where there's a will, there's a way. Maybe if you continue to focus on that drive, that desire to come out on top after a lot of difficulty, if you can tap into that effectively, then I say go for it. Again, it seems to me that the answer is going to come to you sooner or later. It just might take a little more time for you to really uh, come to that decision. The overall result that we have here for you is the Two of Wands. And I want to draw two more cards just to augment it. We got the Knight of Wands and the Three of Pentacles. Okay. So your overall outcome is sort of a power play. I see you as um, going, being being endowed with a lot of power by the end of all this. And possibly this is saying that by your perseverance through this situation, that if you continue to persevere on this track, you will eventually find a pretty good job, probably in a location that you've possibly never been in before. But I do see it as an empowering thing. If you stay here in this situation, by learning to deal with this and by learning to overcome this, you will probably end up being quite successful if you continue to tap into that. Now, again, I want to return to the Two of Cups as far as the Crown is concerned. Um, and just to reinforce, because I think the Crown really up here is the most important position when we do the Celtic cross. And I do just want to leave you really with perhaps the idea that it's so schmaltzy, but really to simply follow your heart and to do that which you are most attracted to for whatever reason. I, uh, I think overall, honestly, I think this is a situation that could end up really good for you if you let it. Um, and then again, I think it's also saying that that it might not necessarily be for you. And again, it just really gives me that from the Four of Cups now, and the Tower isn't great. Um, you know, excuse me. Uh, so I don't know. I'm clearly a little scattered right now. As far as advice to you, I think really go with whatever your heart is telling you. Go with whatever it is you're drawn to, whatever it is you're attracted to. If this is the kind of life you're really attracted to, then go for it by all means. If you know in your heart of hearts that this really just doesn't quite work for you because you have an innate dislike of it, then don't bother. It's sort of that simple with a lot of things. I think it is very likely that if you waited out, this period of boredom and sort of disinterest might blow over, um, as you start to work harder at it and get more invested in it. That could change quite a bit. Uh, because again, your overall outcome is very strong. I think uh, for being successful in this and being able to find work uh, actually fairly easily. Okay, so that's important. Obviously, job security is very important in this day and age. So there's that to think about. If you let it go, that's probably what's going to happen. You'll be fine. Um, I think just really re-question whether or not this is really what you're attracted to. And I think, honestly, I think it probably is. I do. I think you just weren't entirely prepared for this situation. Uh, but but I do think overall, now that we've really talked about the whole thing and read the whole thing, I do think that this is probably the right thing for you to do. Usually, when we get the Fool does represent being led by the Spirit to something that's good for us, even though it is a little reckless. So I sort of assumed that it was more of a reckless thing simply because before all I really had to look at was the Tower and the Hanged Man, um, whereas the other cards really changed the direction of things. So I suppose I'll leave it at that, since I think I've touched upon just about everything here. If you have any questions for me, if it was totally inaccurate, uh, please let me know. Of course, again, my usual disclaimer, any decisions you make uh, are your own, and I am not responsible for any of them, you know. But I know you're going to make the right decision. I do, because you are a very intuitive person as well, and I think you are in touch with your emotional center, and I think you know what's right, and I think you're going to go with that. So I'm not too worried about you, actually. I think have some faith in yourself, and dig deep into that reserve of your desire to succeed in this, because I think you can do it. All right? Um, I hope that helps. I really do, and let me know, okay? Thank you very much for your patronage again, and take care. Wish you the best. Bye-bye.